Pause for a moment and look around your living space. Does it uplift you or drain you? If you're like millions out there, you're trapped in a cycle of tidying, watching clutter return in hours, and feeling defeated. But what if ancient Japanese wisdom holds the key to breaking this cycle for good? In the next few minutes, I'll reveal 8 powerful Japanese principles that will not only change how your home looks, but how it feels to live in. These aren't expensive hacks, they're simple, time-tested techniques refined over centuries. And the last principle I'll share will completely transform how you think about your home. So hit subscribe, and in the comments, tell me which space in your home frustrates you the most. By the end of this video, that frustration will turn into excitement. Introduction: the Japanese philosophy of harmonious living. Picture this. You spend an entire weekend decluttering, organizing every inch of your home. It looks perfect. You feel proud. But within days or hours, the mess creeps back. You're left wondering, am I just bad at keeping things tidy? The truth is, it's not your fault. The problem is not you, it's the approach. Most organization methods focus on surface-level cleaning, but Japanese philosophy teaches something deeper. Home organization isn't just about tidying objects, it's about creating a living environment that supports your peace of mind, energy, and well-being. Clutter isn't just physical, it's energetic. A chaotic home breeds a chaotic mind. Japanese wisdom offers a different path, one where your home breathes, supports your purpose, and energizes you daily. The 8 principles I'll share today aren't temporary fixes, they're life-changing shifts in how you live within your space. Before we start, do 2 things. Like this video so others can discover these life-changing ideas. Think of someone who's struggling with clutter and share this with them. Now, let's begin this transformation, one principle at a time. Principle 1. Conscious release. Fewer possessions, greater liberation. The first principle that will completely revolutionize your relationship with your home is what I call conscious release. The deliberate and mindful process of carefully evaluating every single item within your living space and consciously choosing to keep only those possessions that genuinely serve your current life purpose and bring authentic value to your daily experience. Take a moment right now to thoughtfully scan your immediate surroundings with fresh eyes. How many objects can you identify that you haven't actually used or even noticed in the past month? How many items exist in your space simply because they've always been there, occupying valuable real estate not because they add any meaningful value to your current life, but merely out of habit or inertia? This observation isn't about harsh judgment or self-criticism. It's about developing honest awareness and understanding. In traditional Japanese philosophy, every single object we choose to own carries what they describe as energetic weight. This concept doesn't refer to mystical or supernatural ideas, but to the very real mental and emotional energy required to maintain, store, organize, clean, and make ongoing decisions about each individual possession. When we accumulate items without conscious intention or regular evaluation, we're essentially volunteering to carry an increasingly heavy energetic burden that affects our daily well-being. The practice of conscious release begins with fundamentally shifting our relationship to material possessions from one of unconscious attachment and accumulation to one of purposeful curation and mindful stewardship. This transformation doesn't mean embracing stark emptiness or unnecessarily depriving yourself of beautiful, meaningful, or functional things that genuinely enhance your life. Instead, it means ensuring that every single item in your home has truly earned its place through regular use, authentic appreciation, or profound personal significance. To implement this life-changing principle effectively, develop what I call the 3-question evaluation. For every item you're considering keeping in your space, ask yourself these 3 crucial questions. First, does this object actively contribute to my life in its current state, or is it simply taking up space? Second, do I feel genuine joy, satisfaction, or appreciation when I see, touch, or use this particular item? And third, if this item mysteriously disappeared tomorrow, would I feel compelled to replace it, or would I barely notice its absence? If you cannot honestly answer yes to at least two of these fundamental questions, it's time to practice the Japanese art of grateful release. This isn't about ruthlessly discarding possessions without thought or emotion, but rather about mindfully honoring the role certain items have played in your life while honestly acknowledging when that role has naturally ended or evolved. When you do decide to release an item from your home, take a meaningful moment to hold it gently in your hands and silently express gratitude for the service it provided during its time with you. This practice might feel awkward or unnecessary initially, but this simple ritual of appreciation serves two important psychological purposes. It helps you process any lingering emotional attachment you might have to the object, and it trains your mind to be significantly more thoughtful and intentional about future acquisitions. Let me share the transformative experience of Elena, a client who had inherited her grandmother's extensive porcelain collection. The dishes were undeniably beautiful and represented significant monetary value, but Elena never entertained formally and felt a persistent sense of guilt and burden every time she saw them stored away, unused and unappreciated. When she applied the three-question evaluation, she realized that while she deeply treasured the memory of her beloved grandmother, the physical dishes weren't necessary to honor or maintain that precious emotional connection. Elena made the conscious decision to keep one special teacup that her grandmother had used daily for her morning ritual, and she thoughtfully donated the remainder of the collection to a local charity that helps families starting over after difficult circumstances. The result wasn't loss or regret, it was profound freedom and relief. Elena reported feeling genuinely lighter and more peaceful every time she opened that cabinet, seeing the one meaningful piece that truly mattered, rather than feeling overwhelmed by the extensive collection that had become a source of stress rather than joy. The benefits of conscious release extend far beyond simply creating additional physical space in your home. When you systematically reduce the number of possessions requiring your ongoing attention and maintenance, you'll discover several profound improvements in your daily quality of life. Cleaning becomes significantly faster and more manageable because there are fewer surfaces to dust, fewer items to move around, and fewer things requiring organization and maintenance. Decision-making becomes notably easier and less stressful because you have fewer options to choose from, eliminating what psychologists call choice paralysis, the mental fatigue that comes from having too many alternatives. Most importantly, you'll experience what many people describe as remarkable mental clarity, the peaceful feeling that comes from knowing everything in your space exists there for a clear, intentional reason. Begin implementing this transformative principle today by choosing one small manageable area, perhaps a single drawer, shelf, or corner of a room. Remove everything from that designated space and systematically examine each item using the three-question evaluation. You might be genuinely surprised by how many things you've been keeping out of mere habit rather than conscious intention or genuine need.
Principle 2. Present moment appreciation. Embracing today's abundant gifts. The second transformative principle focuses on liberating yourself from the restrictive trap of someday thinking, the self-limiting habit of saving your finest possessions for hypothetical future occasions while unnecessarily settling for less beautiful or meaningful things in your actual daily life. Take a moment to honestly examine your own home and lifestyle patterns. Do you have elegant dishes that only emerge for special occasions that rarely seem special enough? Clothing that hangs unworn in your closet because you're perpetually waiting for the elusive right event? Perfumes, luxurious candles, or other beautiful items that you're carefully saving for someday that never quite arrives? If so, you're unknowingly practicing a subtle but damaging form of self-denial that traditional Japanese philosophy fundamentally opposes. This principle draws deep inspiration from the Japanese concept of ichigo iche, which translates beautifully to one time, one meeting. This profound philosophy recognizes that each moment we experience is completely unique and will never occur again in exactly the same way. When we postpone enjoyment and appreciation, constantly waiting for circumstances to be perfect enough to warrant using our most beautiful possessions, we risk missing the precious opportunity entirely. The deeper wisdom contained within this principle is understanding that the special occasion is not an external event that happens to us. It's the conscious, intentional decision to treat this particular moment, this specific day, this ordinary Tuesday, as worthy of your absolute best. When you save something for a special occasion that never seems to arrive, you're unconsciously communicating to yourself that your regular, everyday life isn't special enough or valuable enough to deserve your finest things. Let me share the poignant story of Thomas, who inherited an extraordinarily expensive bottle of wine from his late father. For 15 long years, Thomas carefully stored this wine in his cellar, constantly waiting for an occasion significant enough to justify opening such an irreplaceable bottle. He considered opening it when he received a major promotion, when his daughter graduated from college, when he celebrated his wedding anniversary. But somehow, none of these genuinely meaningful moments felt quite special enough for this precious inheritance. Eventually, Thomas made a heartbreaking discovery. The wine wasn't aging gracefully as he had assumed. It had actually passed its optimal peak and was no longer at its best quality. The perfect occasion he had been patiently waiting for had passed while he was busy waiting for permission to enjoy what he already possessed. This story illustrates a profound and universal truth. When we habitually defer enjoyment and appreciation, we often discover that time doesn't wait for our permission to move forward. The expensive perfume can lose its delicate scent, the beautiful fabric can become brittle and damaged, the fine wine can transform into vinegar, all while we wait indefinitely for a moment we deem worthy of their use. Implementing present moment appreciation requires a fundamental shift in mindset and perspective. Instead of asking, "Is today special enough for this beautiful thing?" train yourself to ask, "How can I make today feel special by honoring it with my finest possessions?" This doesn't mean being wasteful, frivolous, or financially irresponsible, but rather recognizing that you deserve to enjoy beautiful things during your actual life, not during theoretical peak moments that may never arrive. Start implementing this principle with small, manageable steps. Tomorrow morning, instead of automatically reaching for your everyday coffee mug, consciously choose the one you've been saving for guests who rarely visit. If you have a piece of clothing you love but rarely wear because it feels too nice for regular occasions, put it on simply because you enjoy how it makes you feel about yourself. Light that expensive candle while you're reading peacefully in the evening. Use the luxurious hand soap instead of saving it indefinitely. The psychological impact of this practice is truly remarkable and immediate. When you begin treating your daily life as worthy of your best possessions, you start feeling more valued, more cared for, and more appreciated by yourself. You begin to perceive your ordinary days not as time to endure while waiting for real life to begin, but as the actual substance of your precious life that deserves celebration and honor. This principle also creates practical benefits for home organization and maintenance. When you use beautiful things regularly instead of storing them indefinitely, you naturally keep fewer items because you can clearly distinguish between what you actually value and appreciate versus what you think you should value. Items that bring you genuine joy through regular use clearly earn their place in your home, while things that feel too precious or anxiety-inducing to use often reveal themselves as sources of stress rather than pleasure. Practice present moment appreciation by conducting what I call a someday audit of your entire home. Systematically identify at least 5 items you've been saving for special occasions and commit to using one of them this week. Pay careful attention to how it feels to honor your present life with these carefully preserved treasures. And notice how this simple act changes your relationship with both the object and your daily experience.
Principle 3. Spatial Breathing. Creating freedom through intentional reduction. The third principle addresses one of the most common yet frequently overlooked sources of home-related stress and overwhelm: the suffocating sensation that comes from living in spaces packed densely with furniture and decorative objects, even when everything appears to be technically in its place and properly organized. You may have experienced this particular sensation without fully understanding its source or impact on your well-being. You walk into a room where nothing is technically messy, disorganized, or out of place, yet something feels fundamentally overwhelming, claustrophobic, or energetically heavy. The walls are covered completely with artwork. Every available surface displays decorative objects, and furniture fills every possible space. While this arrangement might initially seem cozy, abundant, or impressively decorated, it often creates what design psychologists call visual overwhelm, a state where your brain struggles constantly to process and categorize the enormous amount of visual information present in the environment. Traditional Japanese design philosophy approaches this common challenge through the elegant principle of ma, the profound understanding that empty space is not a problematic void that must be filled, but rather a crucial design element that allows both the eye and spirit to rest, recover, and appreciate what is present. This concept recognizes that what we consciously choose not to include in a space is equally important as what we do include. The typical Western approach to decorating and interior design often operates from a philosophy of more is more. If something looks good, then more of it will automatically look better. However, this approach fails to account for how the human nervous system actually responds to visual complexity and stimulation. When every corner contains multiple objects, every wall displays artwork, and every surface holds decorative items, our subconscious mind must constantly process and categorize these elements, creating a subtle but persistent state of mental fatigue and stress. Consider the illuminating story of Amanda, an accomplished interior designer who prided herself on creating richly decorated, visually impressive spaces for her clients. Her own home perfectly showcased her considerable talent. Beautifully arranged furniture, carefully curated art collections, and thoughtfully placed decorative objects in every room and corner. Yet, despite the undeniable beauty and professional quality of her space, Amanda found herself feeling consistently restless, anxious, and unable to truly relax at home. She initially attributed these feelings to work-related stress and the pressures of running her own business, until she spent a peaceful weekend at a minimally furnished retreat center. The stark difference in how she felt in that sparse, uncluttered environment was immediately apparent and profound. This experience revealed that her beautifully decorated home was actually overstimulating her senses and nervous system, preventing the rest and recovery she desperately needed. When Amanda returned home, she decided to experiment with the principle of spatial breathing. She systematically removed half of the artwork from her walls, eliminated decorative objects from most surfaces, and rearranged her furniture to create more open pathways and clear sightlines throughout her home. The transformation wasn't merely visual, it was deeply emotional and psychological. For the first time in years, Amanda could genuinely relax and find peace in her own home. Implementing spatial breathing doesn't require eliminating everything you love or forcing yourself to live in stark, uncomfortable emptiness. Instead, it involves making thoughtful, intentional choices about what to display and where to place it, ensuring that each element has adequate space to be properly appreciated rather than competing for attention with everything surrounding it. Begin by evaluating each room through the specific lens of visual rest and recovery. Are there areas where your eye can comfortably land without having to process multiple competing objects? Can you stand in the room and experience a genuine sense of openness and spaciousness, or does everything feel packed, dense, and visually demanding? Remember, the goal isn't to create an empty, sterile space, but to create a balanced environment where objects of beauty and function can truly shine and be appreciated. One practical approach that many people find helpful is the 1/3 rule. For any given surface or wall space, consciously aim to keep approximately 2/3 empty and unoccupied. This ratio allows the items you do choose to display to have genuine visual impact and meaning, while giving your mind and nervous system permission to rest and recover. The benefits of spatial breathing extend far beyond mere aesthetics and visual appeal. Rooms with adequate open space are significantly easier to clean and maintain, because there are fewer objects to move, dust, and organize. They feel larger and more luxurious because openness is psychologically associated with abundance and prosperity rather than scarcity and limitation. Most importantly, these thoughtfully designed spaces actively support mental clarity and emotional peace because they reduce the constant low-level stimulation that can contribute to feelings of stress, overwhelm, and anxiety.
Principle 4. Energy circulation, designing for natural flow and vitality. The fourth principle introduces the crucial concept of energetic flow within your living space. How the thoughtful arrangement of furniture, objects, lighting, and pathways affects the overall feeling of vitality, harmony, and life force in your home environment. While this concept might initially sound abstract or esoteric, the principle of energy circulation is actually highly practical and readily observable through direct experience. Think carefully about spaces where you felt immediately comfortable, energized, and at peace, versus spaces that made you feel sluggish, uncomfortable, or mysteriously drained. Often, the difference isn't purely aesthetic. It's fundamentally about how the space is arranged to support natural movement, light flow, and the feeling of life and vitality. In traditional Japanese home design, considerable attention is devoted to the pathways through a living space. The primary goal is creating clear, unobstructed routes that allow both people and, metaphorically speaking, life energy to move freely and naturally throughout the home. When hallways are cluttered with furniture, when rooms lack clear sightlines, or when the path from one area to another requires constantly navigating around obstacles and barriers, the space begins to feel stagnant, oppressive, and energetically blocked. This principle also encompasses the vital relationship between your home and natural elements, particularly natural light and fresh air circulation. Spaces that feel vibrant, alive, and energizing almost always have generous access to natural light and good air movement. Conversely, spaces that feel heavy, depressing, or draining are often cut off from these essential elements by heavy curtains, blocked windows, poor ventilation, or unfortunate furniture placement. Let me share the remarkable transformation story of Christopher, who worked from home but found himself consistently fatigued, unproductive, and struggling with focus despite having a technically well-equipped office space. His home office contained everything he needed for effective work: a good desk, comfortable chair, adequate storage, and all necessary technology. But something about the space consistently drained his energy and motivation. When Christopher analyzed his office through the lens of energy circulation, he discovered several significant flow-blocking issues that were impacting his daily experience. His desk faced away from the room's only window, cutting him off from natural light and the psychological benefits of seeing the outdoors. A large bookshelf created a visual barrier that made the room feel cramped and divided. Stacks of papers and boxes on the floor created physical obstacles that made movement through the space feel awkward and restricted. Christopher implemented several strategic changes based on energy circulation principles. He repositioned his desk to face the window, allowing natural light to illuminate his workspace and providing views of the outdoors. He replaced the large, imposing bookshelf with a smaller, more open storage solution that maintained clear sightlines throughout the room. He created an unobstructed pathway from the door to his desk, removing all floor-level obstacles that had been impeding smooth movement. The results were remarkable and immediate. Not only did the room feel significantly more spacious and inviting, but Christopher found his productivity, focus, and energy levels dramatically improved. He reported feeling more creative, more motivated, and genuinely excited to spend time in his transformed workspace. To apply this principle effectively throughout your home, start by walking mindfully through each room and paying careful attention to the natural pathways and flow patterns. Are you able to move freely and comfortably from the entrance to the main functional areas of each room, or do you constantly have to navigate around furniture and obstacles? Are there areas where natural light is unnecessarily blocked by furniture, decorations, or other objects? Do rooms feel connected and flowing into each other, or does each space feel isolated and cut off? Natural light deserves special attention and consideration in this principle. Light has a profound effect on both our physical health and emotional well-being, yet many homes inadvertently block or filter natural light through heavy window treatments, overgrown plants, or poorly positioned furniture. While privacy is certainly important and necessary, carefully consider whether there are creative ways to maintain appropriate privacy while still allowing maximum natural light to enter and enliven your spaces. Fresh air circulation is equally important for creating spaces that feel alive and energizing. Stagnant air contributes significantly to feelings of heaviness, lethargy, and depression, while fresh air movement creates a natural sense of vitality and renewal. This doesn't require expensive ventilation systems or major renovations. Often it's as simple as opening windows regularly, using fans strategically, or ensuring that furniture arrangements don't block natural airflow patterns throughout your home. The issue of corner accumulation deserves particular attention and consideration. Corners naturally tend to collect objects, papers, furniture, and clutter. But when corners become storage areas or dumping grounds, they create what many describe as energetic dead zones that can make an entire room feel stagnant and lifeless. Instead, try to keep corners relatively clear and open, perhaps with just a single purposeful element like a beautiful plant or piece of meaningful art. Implementing energy circulation principles creates homes that feel more alive, more welcoming, and more supportive of whatever activities you want to pursue. People often comment that homes with good energy circulation feel significantly larger than their actual square footage would suggest, and visitors tend to feel more comfortable and naturally want to spend more time in these thoughtfully designed spaces.
Principle 5. Cleansing as meditation. Transforming maintenance into mindful practice. The fifth principle completely revolutionizes one of the most universally disliked aspects of home maintenance, cleaning and organizing. Instead of viewing cleaning as a tedious chore to rush through as quickly as possible while thinking about more enjoyable activities, this principle transforms these necessary tasks into valuable opportunities for mindfulness, reflection, stress relief, and even moving meditation. The Japanese approach to cleaning and maintenance draws heavily from Buddhist monastic traditions, where monks clean their temples not because the spaces are necessarily dirty or disorganized, but as a form of moving meditation and spiritual practice. This approach recognizes that the act of caring for our physical environment can be profoundly centering, psychologically healing, and spiritually nourishing when approached with the proper mindset and intention. Consider how dramatically different you might feel about cleaning if, instead of seeing it as precious time stolen from more enjoyable activities, you viewed it as dedicated time for mental processing, stress relief, emotional regulation, and meaningful connection with your physical environment. This fundamental shift in perspective can transform one of life's most repetitive necessities into one of its most therapeutic and valuable practices. The key to implementing this principle successfully lies in approaching cleaning with complete presence and mindfulness, rather than rushing toward completion while mentally being elsewhere. When you sweep, focus entirely on the rhythmic movement of the broom and the immediate satisfaction of seeing dirt and debris cleared away. When you wipe surfaces, pay careful attention to the smooth motion of your cloth and the immediate transformation from cluttered or dusty to clean and fresh. When you organize objects, appreciate the sense of order you're creating and notice how each item finds its proper intended place. This mindful, present-moment approach naturally leads to what the Japanese call little and often, the practice of maintaining cleanliness and organization through small, daily actions rather than allowing chaos to accumulate until major, overwhelming cleaning sessions become necessary. When you clean mindfully and with presence, you begin to notice messes as they occur and address them immediately. Not because you're compulsive or obsessive, but because you've developed a genuine appreciation for the process of maintaining harmony and order. Let me share the transformative experience of Rebecca, a busy mother of 2 young children who had come to dread her weekend cleaning marathons. These intensive sessions would consume entire Saturdays, take hours of precious family time, and leave her feeling exhausted, resentful, and defeated. When she first learned about cleaning as meditation, she initially dismissed it as impractical given her hectic schedule and overwhelming responsibilities. However, Rebecca agreed to experiment with this approach for just 1 week to see if it might make any difference in her experience. Instead of saving all cleaning tasks for the weekend, Rebecca began incorporating mindful cleaning moments throughout her daily routine. While her morning coffee brewed, she mindfully wiped down kitchen counters, paying complete attention to the circular motion of the cloth and the satisfaction of removing crumbs and spills. While her children played peacefully after dinner, she spent 10 minutes slowly and deliberately organizing the living room, appreciating how each toy finding its designated place contributed to a sense of peace and order in the shared space. The transformation was remarkable and exceeded her expectations. Not only did Rebecca's home stay consistently cleaner with significantly less effort and time investment, but she found these brief cleaning meditations became some of the most peaceful, centering moments in her busy day. The dreaded weekend cleaning marathons became completely unnecessary because the daily mindful maintenance prevented chaos from accumulating in the first place. To implement this principle in your own life, begin by choosing one specific cleaning task that you'll perform mindfully each day. This might be making your bed with complete attention each morning, washing dishes with presence after dinner, or spending 5 focused minutes organizing your workspace before starting work. Focus entirely on the chosen task. Notice the textures, movements, and transformations involved. Avoid rushing or multitasking. Instead, allow the cleaning to become a form of moving meditation and stress relief. Pay careful attention to the emotional and psychological impact of this practice. Many people discover that mindful cleaning becomes a valuable way to process stress, transition between different activities, or simply create a few precious moments of calm and centeredness in busy, demanding days. The physical act of creating order in your environment often creates corresponding mental clarity and emotional peace. The little and often philosophy naturally emerges from mindful cleaning, because when you're truly present with these tasks, you begin to appreciate the ease of maintaining order versus the difficulty and overwhelm of restoring order after it's been completely lost. A single dish washed immediately after use takes 30 seconds. A sink full of accumulated dishes takes 30 minutes or more. A surface wiped down daily stays consistently clean. A surface ignored for a week requires serious scrubbing and effort. This principle also helps break the perfectionist trap that makes many people avoid cleaning altogether or feel defeated by the task. When cleaning becomes meditation rather than a quest for impossible perfection, the focus shifts naturally from achieving an unrealistic standard to simply participating in the ongoing, never-ending process of caring for your space and yourself.
Principle 6. Intentional acquisition. Purchasing with purpose and patience. The 6th principle addresses one of the fundamental root causes of home chaos in our consumer-driven culture, the tendency to acquire objects impulsively, without carefully considering their long-term impact on our living spaces, our financial well-being, and our overall quality of life. Modern society constantly encourages consumption through sophisticated advertising, social media influence, and cultural messaging that systematically equates purchasing with happiness, success, self-expression, and personal worth. We're bombarded daily with sales events, limited-time offers, and persuasive suggestions that we need more things to improve our lives, solve our problems, and achieve fulfillment. The result is often homes filled with objects that seemed appealing in the moment of purchase, but don't actually enhance our daily experience or contribute to our genuine well-being. Japanese culture approaches acquisition from a fundamentally different philosophical perspective, one that prioritizes quality over quantity, longevity over temporary trends, and conscious decision-making over impulsive purchasing. This doesn't mean being miserly, overly restrictive, or depriving yourself of beautiful things that genuinely enhance your life, but rather being highly selective and intentional about what you allow into your carefully curated living space. The practice of intentional acquisition begins with developing a clear understanding of the true cost of any purchase. This comprehensive cost includes not just the initial price tag, but also the storage space required, the ongoing maintenance needed, the visual attention demanded, the cleaning time required, and the eventual disposal or replacement costs. When you factor in these often hidden costs, many purchases that seem appealing in the moment begin to lose their allure and reveal their true impact. One powerful tool for implementing this principle is what I call the 30-day consideration period. When you encounter something you want to purchase, instead of buying it immediately while under the influence of desire or marketing pressure, write down what the item is and specifically why you want it. Then wait 30 full days before making the final decision. This waiting period allows the initial emotional impulse to fade naturally and lets you evaluate whether the desire for this object persists when you're in a calmer, more rational state of mind. Let me share the eye-opening story of Jessica, a marketing professional who loved home decor and frequently purchased new items to refresh and update her living space. She estimated that she spent approximately $300 monthly on home accessories, artwork, and decorative objects. While each individual purchase seemed reasonable and justifiable, Jessica's home was gradually beginning to feel cluttered and chaotic despite her excellent taste and design sense. When Jessica tracked her purchases carefully for 6 months, she realized she had spent nearly $2,000 on items that weren't actually improving her quality of life or bringing lasting satisfaction. Jessica decided to implement the 30-day rule for any non-essential purchase over $25. The results were genuinely eye-opening and transformative. In the first month of this experiment, she wrote down 12 different items she wanted to buy. When she reviewed her list 30 days later, she genuinely still wanted only 2 of those items. The remaining 10 had completely lost their appeal and seemed unattractive or even unattractive. Over the course of a full year, this simple practice helped Jessica reduce her home decor spending by 80%, while paradoxically increasing her satisfaction with her purchases, because the items she did buy were truly valued and appreciated. Another crucial aspect of intentional acquisition involves questioning the source of your desire for specific objects. Are you purchasing something because you genuinely love it and can clearly see exactly how it will enhance your daily life? Or are you buying it because it was featured on social media, because it's on sale and seems like a good deal, or because it reminds you of someone else's lifestyle that you admire from a distance? The Japanese concept of mono no aware, a deep appreciation for the impermanence and transient nature of all things, offers valuable perspective on acquisition decisions. This philosophy suggests that part of an object's beauty lies in its temporary nature, and that trying to accumulate permanent happiness through material possessions is ultimately futile and misguided. This doesn't lead to nihilism about purchasing, but rather to a more thoughtful, appreciative relationship with what we choose to bring into our lives. Quality over quantity becomes a natural outcome of intentional acquisition. When you buy fewer items but choose each one carefully and deliberately, you can afford to invest in well-made pieces that will last longer, function better, and bring more satisfaction over time. A single, beautiful, well-crafted item that you use and appreciate daily brings significantly more joy than 10 mediocre items that clutter your space and demand your attention. To practice intentional acquisition, start by implementing a waiting period for all non-essential purchases. Use this time to research the item's quality and durability, read reviews from actual users, and consider how it fits into your overall vision for your home and lifestyle. Ask yourself whether this purchase aligns with your values, whether you have a specific place for the item, and whether it will genuinely improve your daily experience rather than just temporarily satisfying a desire. The benefits of this principle extend far beyond reducing clutter and visual overwhelm. Intentional acquisition typically results in significant financial savings, reduced decision fatigue, increased appreciation for the items you do choose to purchase, and a greater sense of intentionality in how you create your living environment.
Principle 7. Resourceful Stewardship. Maximizing value through creative reuse.
The seventh principle challenges the wasteful, disposable mindset that pervades modern consumer culture by encouraging creative reuse, thoughtful repair, and resourceful problem-solving before automatically resorting to replacement or disposal. In traditional Japanese culture, the concept of mottainai expresses profound regret over waste and encourages finding maximum value in everything we already possess. This philosophy stems from both practical necessity and spiritual wisdom, the understanding that resources are precious and limited, and that discarding something useful represents a failure of imagination and creativity rather than a necessity or inevitability. This principle doesn't advocate for hoarding broken or truly useless items or for keeping things that no longer serve any practical purpose. Rather, it encourages pausing before disposal to thoughtfully consider whether an object might serve a different purpose, whether it can be repaired with reasonable effort, or whether its components might be valuable for other creative uses. This approach not only reduces waste and saves money, but also cultivates creativity, problem-solving skills, and a deeper appreciation for the resources we already possess. The practice of resourceful stewardship begins with fundamentally changing your automatic response to objects that seem to have outlived their original purpose or function. Instead of immediately thinking, "This is broken, I need to throw it away and buy a replacement," train yourself to think, "This isn't working for its original purpose. What else might it accomplish, and how might it be restored?" Consider the inspiring story of William, a graphic designer who was about to discard a beautiful wooden chair with a wobbly leg. That made it unsafe to sit on. Instead of immediately replacing it, he took time to carefully examine the actual problem. The leg wasn't broken or damaged, it was simply loose due to old glue that had dried out over time. 15 minutes with some wood glue and clamps restored the chair to perfect function and stability. This success encouraged William to look at other items throughout his home with fresh, creative eyes. He discovered that many things he'd assumed were worn out or beyond repair actually just needed minor attention, creative solutions, or could be repurposed for different but equally valuable uses. An old sweater with a small hole became perfect cleaning rags. A smartphone with a cracked screen became a dedicated music player for his workshop. Furniture that no longer suited his living room found new life in his home office. Food waste represents a particularly impactful area for applying this principle of resourceful stewardship. The traditional Japanese approach to cooking emphasizes using every part of ingredients whenever possible, minimizing waste through creativity and planning. Vegetable scraps become flavorful broths, wilting greens are transformed into nutritious soups, and leftover rice becomes the foundation for new meals. This practice not only reduces waste and saves money, but often leads to discovering new flavors, cooking techniques, and culinary creativity. The ancient art of kintsugi, repairing broken ceramics with gold to create something more beautiful than the original, provides a powerful metaphor for this entire principle. Instead of discarding broken objects, kintsugi celebrates their history and imperfections by highlighting the repair with precious metal, creating something that tells a story and has character. While you might not literally apply gold to your repairs, you can adopt the underlying philosophy that objects with history, character, and evidence of care are often more valuable and meaningful than pristine new replacements. Clothing offers numerous opportunities for creative, resourceful stewardship. A shirt with a permanent stain might become a perfect cleaning rag or gardening shirt. Jeans that no longer fit can be transformed into comfortable shorts or even cut into useful patches for future repairs. Sweaters with small holes can be mended in ways that add character and personality rather than just restoring their original appearance. Children's outgrown clothing can become costumes, craft materials, or donations to families who need them. Let me share how Catherine, a teacher and mother of 3, transformed her family's entire relationship with their possessions through resourceful stewardship. Faced with a tight budget and children who were constantly outgrowing or accidentally damaging their belongings, Catherine began teaching her family to see potential and possibility in everything before considering disposal. When her son's baseball glove developed a significant tear, instead of immediately buying a new one, they researched leather repair techniques together and fixed it as a family project. The glove ended up lasting another 3 full seasons, and her son developed both pride in maintaining his equipment and practical repair skills that served him throughout his life. When her daughter's art supplies ran low, they experimented with making paints from natural materials and creating drawing tools from household items, turning scarcity into creativity. This approach evolved into an engaging family game. Whenever something seemed destined for disposal, they would brainstorm alternative uses, repair possibilities, and creative solutions together. The children became incredibly creative problem solvers, and the family significantly reduced both their spending and their waste production while building stronger relationships and valuable life skills. To implement resourceful stewardship in your own life, create what I call a second look policy for anything you're considering discarding or throwing away. Before disposing of something, ask yourself these important questions. Could this be repaired with reasonable effort? Could this serve a different purpose than its original function? Are there components here that might be useful for something else? Could someone else use this even I cannot? Start building basic repair skills that match your interests, abilities, and lifestyle. This might mean learning to sew on buttons and mend small tears, researching simple appliance troubleshooting techniques, or discovering how to refresh furniture with cleaning, minor adjustments, or creative modifications. Online tutorials, community workshops, and library resources make these valuable skills more accessible than ever before. The benefits of resourceful stewardship extend far beyond the obvious environmental and financial advantages. This practice cultivates creativity, enhances problem-solving abilities, and develops a deeper, more appreciative relationship with the material world around you. When you invest effort in maintaining and repurposing your possessions, you develop a more intimate connection with your material environment and often discover genuine satisfaction in working with your hands to create practical solutions.
Principle 8. Sacred Emptiness. Honoring open space as essential design. The eighth and final principle represents perhaps the most counterintuitive concept for those raised in cultures that automatically equate emptiness with lack or failure. The profound understanding that unoccupied space is not a problem to be solved or a missed opportunity, but rather a crucial design element that allows everything else in your home to breathe, function properly, and be genuinely appreciated. In Western interior design traditions, empty space is often viewed as wasted space, a missed opportunity to display more objects, add more furniture, or demonstrate more personality and style. This approach consistently creates homes that feel busy, overwhelming, and visually chaotic, even when individual elements are undeniably beautiful and well chosen. Japanese design philosophy approaches emptiness from a completely different perspective, recognizing it as ma, the pregnant pause, the meaningful silence that gives depth and significance to everything around it. Think about this principle in terms of music composition and performance. The notes themselves are certainly important and carry the melody, but without the spaces between notes, the rests, pauses, and moments of silence, music becomes incomprehensible noise. Similarly, in visual design and spatial composition, the spaces between elements are what allow each individual element to have impact, meaning, and the ability to be properly appreciated. A wall with one beautiful piece of art commands attention and creates contemplation. A wall covered with multiple pieces creates visual competition where nothing can be properly seen or appreciated. This principle requires a fundamental shift in how you evaluate and think about your living spaces. Instead of asking, "What else can I add here to make this space more complete?" begin asking, "What is this empty space contributing to the overall feeling and function of this room?" Often, you'll discover that areas you considered incomplete or unfinished are actually providing essential visual and psychological rest that makes the entire space more peaceful and livable. Let me share the remarkable transformation story of Alexander, an art collector who owned a genuinely impressive collection of paintings, sculptures, and decorative objects accumulated over many years. His home showcased every single piece, with artwork covering virtually all available wall space and objects displayed on every surface throughout his living area.
While visitors consistently admired his extensive collection and obvious expertise, Alexander himself felt persistently restless and overwhelmed in his own home, though he couldn't understand why this was happening. When Alexander learned about the principle of sacred emptiness, he initially resisted the idea of reducing his carefully curated displays. His collection represented years of passionate curation, significant financial investment, and deep personal meaning. However, he agreed to experiment by temporarily storing half of his collection and implementing a seasonal rotation system for his displays. The result was immediately transformative and exceeded his expectations. The pieces that remained on display suddenly seemed more impactful, meaningful, and worthy of attention. Alexander found himself actually noticing and appreciating individual works in ways he hadn't experienced when they were competing for attention with everything around them. The open wall spaces didn't feel empty or incomplete. They felt restful and allowed his eye to appreciate the composition of each room as a whole, rather than being overwhelmed by competing details. Sacred emptiness applies equally to horizontal surfaces throughout your home, not just walls. Coffee tables, kitchen counters, dressers, and desks all benefit significantly from having areas that remain clear and uncluttered. These open spaces serve multiple practical purposes. They provide room for daily activities, they're significantly easier to clean and maintain, and they create a sense of order and calm that supports mental clarity and emotional peace. This principle also extends to storage areas throughout your home. Closets, drawers, and cabinets that are packed to absolute capacity become difficult to use effectively and nearly impossible to maintain in an organized state. Leaving some open space in storage areas makes it easier to put items away properly, easier to find things when you need them, and easier to maintain organization over time without constant struggle. To implement sacred emptiness, start by identifying specific areas in your home that feel visually overwhelming, chaotic, or energetically heavy. Experiment with removing some objects or decorations, and carefully notice how the space feels different. Remember, this isn't about permanent removal. You can always add things back if you find you genuinely miss them or if the space feels too sparse for your taste. Practice what I call the 2/3 rule for surfaces and walls. Consciously aim to keep roughly 2/3 of any space empty and unoccupied. This ratio provides enough open area to create essential visual rest while still allowing for functional and decorative objects that enhance your daily life. Consider implementing seasonal rotation for decorative items throughout your home. Instead of displaying everything you own simultaneously, store some items and rotate them periodically throughout the year. This approach allows you to enjoy your possessions without overwhelming your space, and it creates the excitement of rediscovering objects you haven't seen for a while, making them feel fresh and new again. The benefits of honoring sacred emptiness are profound and immediately apparent. Spaces with adequate open areas feel larger, calmer, and more luxurious. Cleaning becomes significantly easier because there are fewer objects to move and dust. Most importantly, the items you do choose to display gain increased impact and appreciation because they're not constantly competing for attention with everything around them.
Conclusion: your journey to harmonious living. These 8 transformative principles, conscious release, present moment appreciation, spatial breathing, energy circulation, cleansing as meditation, intentional acquisition, resourceful stewardship, and sacred emptiness work together to create a comprehensive approach to home organization that goes far beyond surface-level tidiness. By implementing these ancient Japanese principles, you're not just organizing your physical space, you're creating a foundation for a more peaceful, intentional, and fulfilling way of living. Your home becomes a sanctuary that supports your highest aspirations rather than a source of stress and overwhelm. Remember, transformation doesn't happen overnight. Start with one principle that resonates most strongly with you, practice it consistently for several weeks, then gradually incorporate the others. Each small change builds upon the previous ones, creating momentum toward the peaceful, harmonious home you deserve. If this video has provided value and insight, please like it to help others discover these life-changing principles. Share it with friends or family members who might benefit from this ancient wisdom.
And don't forget to subscribe for more content about creating intentional, peaceful living spaces. Your journey to a transformed home and life begins with a single conscious choice. Which principle will you implement first? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear about your transformation journey and support you along the way.